Hello everyone and welcome back to FantasyFootballFits.com, the leading platform to help you build your overall rank by increasing your team value and overall giving you the best chance of winning those all-important mini-leagues and gaining the bragging rights over your mates. My name's FPL Phillips, or Eddie, and I'm welcoming myself back to the channel today, and I hope you'll give me a warm welcome back too, with the returning series of Eddie versus the algorithm, which we've not been able to do for a while, unfortunately, due to a few health situations I had going on. But I'm back now, ready more than ever to take on the computer and see if I can put together a team for this week that'll be able to beat the algorithm 11 for game week 22. So let's get into it then, and the algorithm coming back with a bang with a very, very high projected points total for this week of 101, as you can see down below me. My team, when I calculated it, only had an average of 90 projected points, but the algorithm is always going to be the team that is projected to get the highest amount of points. So I'm never going to be beating the algorithm in predicted points, or the algorithm team is not the true algorithm team. But yeah, my team, 90 points, still quite a significant gap, but it's just showing you that there is still a very high potential and high ceiling for a double game week, despite the fact that there might be a few teams who are in little doubts, and also players and teams with injuries that they may be carrying, and the fixtures perhaps not looking as good as maybe other double game weeks will in future game weeks. But yeah, in goal for the algorithm, let's kick it off with David De Gea. So Manchester United's keeper makes the spot in the team for double game week 22, facing Brentford and Aston Villa in two away fixtures, which you'd have to argue are probably one of the best looking sets of double game week fixtures. What's really the kind of counter argument for David De Gea is how poor Manchester United in general have looked at the back. They're without Maguire now, which some people would probably argue is a benefit, but they now have a few injuries. They're rotating the defence quite a lot, having to make shift centre-backs in, Phil Jones returning for etc. Lindelof just coming back from injury, and so chances of a clean sheet are looking pretty slim pickings right now, despite two pretty decent fixtures. They are both away, but United have performed better away from home in terms of defensively over the last couple of years anyway. Old Trafford is not the fortress which it once was. So if you're going for a United defensive asset, whether that's a defender or a goalkeeper, I think De Gea is the one to go for. We don't know whether it's going to be Delo or Wan-Bissaka really on the right. There's probably a good chance that we're not going to see Shaw for the first game if he's suspended. So going David De Gea in goal is going to be the best pick in my opinion if you do want a United defensive asset. And the only other real option I see in goal is probably Robert Sanchez. You could go maybe a Lloris, but I think Robert Sanchez is the second best pick. And when we consider the defensive options that Brighton have outfield, I think there are better picks there. And one of them has made his way into this algorithm team too, which is Cucurella. And we can see there Brighton facing Chelsea and Crystal Palace in two home games in game week 22. And I think Cucurella does look the best. Lamptey, we can't say for sure he's nailed, and I think Cucurella is worth that extra 0.6 million to go for him in the double game week if you're on a free hit or just bringing in someone long term. I think Cucurella is the one to go for from Brighton. Marcus Alonso also keeps his place despite having quite a tough set of double game week fixtures. So yeah, Brighton and Manchester City in two away games, you'd have to argue are one of the hardest sets, maybe only behind Brentford, who face Liverpool and Manchester United. But Alonso's looked so good going forward that I can see this as quite a justified pick. He's looked great in his average position, getting into the box, as he has always really done when playing in that back five for Chelsea over on the left-hand side. I think he's here to stay until Chilwell's come back. There have been rumours of an Emerson return, perhaps. I don't think the loan recall has officially gone through or anything like that yet, and even so, I don't think Alonso's done enough to justify being dropped, even if Emerson had returned. But Alonso nailed on really for this double game week. Two fixtures, I would be keeping him in my team for sure if you own him, and if you're on a free hit, maybe definitely is one to consider, with Reguilon now being a doubt. Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. There's only a single game week player in this team. So the only single game week player to keep the spot in this side. And facing Brentford at home, there's good justification for that. Despite some pretty good expected goals conceded looking stats from Brentford, ranking them second over the last few game weeks, I think that going Trent Alexander-Arnold really in any side, in any week now, is almost a no-brainer. And Trent Alexander-Arnold you have to keep in this side for pure attacking threat and potential with Liverpool in a home fixture. They're going to be relying on him as a much more creative force as well, getting forward as well, I suppose, creating those crosses in. We know that Jota is still here, and for what is quite a short man, he's fantastic in the air, and we can still see some goals from crosses from Trent, I think, and will be on set pieces obviously as well on those free kicks, as he normally is anyway. In midfield, we're looking at a nice midfield of four double game week players. So Bruno Fernandes, Tielemans, Maddison and Mount. So two Leicester midfielders, Mason Mount on the right and Bruno Fernandes over there on the left. So another United asset comes into this team, and quite a premium. I've seen a few people going for him as a punt. I'm not entirely sold myself. The only way I would be going for Fernandes is on a free hit, or perhaps if you don't want to make a long-term or long way move from Salah in terms of budget. But I would personally, if I was downgrading to get Salah back in, I would still go with someone like a Maddison, who I do prefer and has made his way into this team also. You can keep all that money in the bank, but I just think it's worth it to go for Maddison, who I do fancy more in this double game week. Now, there is the question with Leicester of their fixtures. Will they go ahead? They've had a lot of injuries. They've got players away at AFCON. It's not actually been COVID. They've got their fixture against Everton in game week 21 postponed. So to Maddison and Tielemans going into this team, and if you're considering going into your team on a free hit at all, maybe take with a pinch of salt and wait nearer the deadline, more specifically, and more importantly, to make sure that fixture against Burnley, most crucially, is going to go ahead, because that is the more favourable of the two fixtures, you'd argue, with them facing Burnley away and Tottenham at home. So Tielemans and Maddison's pretty nice picks. I had a look at Harvey Barnes as well, and I think he maybe does edge it over Tielemans for me, but Tielemans will have penalties on his side with Vardy out. Mason Mount over there on the right, you can see the second Chelsea asset to make his way into this team. Again, with those tough fixtures, it's hard to say, but Lukaku's return has certainly aided Mount in terms of his creative threat. It does slightly reduce his goal attacking returns. However, I think that Mason Mount could be a great player to go for, and if Jorginho's not on the pitch, could be on penalties as well. And then finally in the forward line, speaking of penalties, is 3 penalty takers to bring into this game week 22 double game week draft, with Ronaldo, Kane and King making up the forward line. Now, this is a no-brainer really in terms of Ronaldo and Kane where they're concerned, boasting 2 of the highest sets of statistics in terms of expected goals conceded, and expected goals against for the teams they're playing as well. So they're facing some pretty weak defences. Kane facing a Leicester side that could be much depleted, but of course, always consider the risk to that game if it does look likely to be called off. With Son's absence, that does reduce Kane's appeal to me slightly a little bit, which is why I'm edging away personally in my own side from playing the free hit. But Cristiano Ronaldo is a no-brainer and someone that I'm really missing having from my side. Brentford and Aston Villa looks prime option to captain, especially with Son out, reducing Kane's threat and obviously his own. And Josh King is the only really other captain option that I can see available in my own side. King versus Dennis is an interesting debate. There's been a lot of talk surrounding who's the better option to go for now, with Dennis actually overtaking King as the more expensive Watford asset, despite not having penalties on his side. If you do delve into the underlying statistics, it is Dennis who comes out on top in terms of expected goals and expected assists. So maybe going for him, especially with that kind of position change which we've seen, with King drifting more out to the left and Dennis moving in from the right to take out that more central role. I think maybe going for Dennis could be the right move. But I've got to go away and make my changes now and actually see what I can put together to see if I can beat the algorithm and put together a team that can outscore it for this coming game week. And I'll be honest, when I was looking for changes to this side, I did find it rather difficult. And actually, as you can see, there've barely been any at all. And even those that I've brought in, I'm not overly confident in them performing the players I have taken out. Bruno has gone, and I've brought in Jota, who I genuinely feel, although having a single game week, could outscore Bruno Fernandes. Now, that could really come back to bite me. Brentford and Aston Villa, and having twice as much game time does play a factor if Bruno does in fact play both games for United this week. But I think that Jota's potential for that one game could outscore them. And I even considered, going with a Bowen who looks on fantastic form, even bringing in an Antonio, looking at Everton assets as well, who obviously have a great fixture against Norwich. And there are so many good little single game week fixtures out there that it is hard to justify some of these out of form double game week players retaining their places. I've also gone Lucas Moura as a bit of a punt and an outside pick. I think he has looked fantastic recently, and it's really been the Spurs team around him who haven't looked as great. But Moura and Kane on that double up, I think could go rather well if I do pull it off. The defence and keeper have stayed exactly the same. I can't see any justification to change that, as I mentioned, with De Gea being the best option out of the United backline and keepers. Same with Cucurella with respect to Brighton, and then keeping Trent and Alonso in, as Alonso is the best Chelsea asset and Trent just being good old Trent. And then I've gone with Dennis in for Josh King up front, and both teams, as I kind of forgot to mention, but it's pretty obvious that both teams are sticking the captaincy on Cristiano Ronaldo for this week, which does play a factor into predicted points. I do need to mention that. But that is going to wrap up this week's Eddie versus the algorithm. Let's see if I can come back with a bang, or can the algorithm get back on level terms. Let me think what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you're team algorithm or team Eddie for this week. I'm not overly confident in many people saying that they're going to be team Eddie, to be honest, but I've still got to back myself. It's actually paid off quite so few times this season when people have doubted my pick. So yeah, let's see how it happens. I'm very excited for finally a nice juicy double game week, despite it not perhaps being the best set of fixtures for some teams, and myself only having 1 or 2 double game week players in my actual team. But yeah, I'm excited for the double game week nonetheless. I hope you are too, and I wish you the best of luck in this coming game week. If you are new around here, do remember to subscribe to the Fix channel, leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and as always, turn on notifications to not miss a single daily video. If you want to check out the link to my channel as well, FPL Phillips, down below in the description, if you want to check that out, alongside the links of our other fantastic presenters. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for today. I will catch you in the next one, and goodbye.